if we're all ready, we can get this meeting started.
Recording in progress.
Good evening. Welcome to the March 10th, 2025 meeting of the Grafton Planning Board. We will begin with a roll call of the members, seeing as how at least one member is participating remotely. Justin Wood.
Present.
Bob Hassinger.
I'm here.
Greg Dalamole.
Present.
Prabhu Venkatraman.
Present.
And David Robbins is present. Staff with us is Town Planner Fiona Coughlin.
Present.
Assistant Planner Natalia Allward.
Present.
How about
Associate Member Ray Mead.
I thought you were going to leave me out, Dave. I was starting to feel a little down here. You know.
You're not completely forgettable. My mind is going in slightly
It's okay.
awkward directions here.
No problem.
Momentarily can't remember someone's name, you know.
Welcome to the club.
That's what we call a senior moment, right?
yeah.
Okay, so first agenda item, as always, is public input. If there's any member of the public present at the meeting who wishes to speak to a matter that's not on the board's agenda for tonight, now would be the time to raise your hand in the room or on Zoom. We have no attendees in the room or on Zoom, but if any member of the board has something that qualifies as public input, in seeing none, proceed to our what is basically the main order of business for this evening's meeting, which is the zoning amendments for the May town meeting warrant. We have an action item for the board to vote to submit various amendments to the warrant. We have a discussion of under discussion items, we have the latest version of the wireless amendments, and it would seem to make sense to discuss that before we end up voting, because we can then vote to submit everything in one vote. We can vote to submit as much as we want to submit for the May town meeting warrant. So we have, as I said, a new version of the proposed wireless bylaw amendments to review.
We're talking about B6.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll pull it up.
V6 is the colored version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoops. Downloaded. Here we go.
So as I recall from our previous discussions on this, we had considered various possible substantive changes, including some dimensional changes, including small wireless facilities. But the last time we discussed this, we said for May we would like to limit this to essentially housekeeping. And I think that's what's before us in the marked up version here that we see on the screen.
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Chair. So yeah, we kind of went back and forth a bit. There was a larger section in there at one point regarding small wireless. The last meeting kind of agreed to leave that for now. And yeah, just right as you say, it's really housekeeping, clarifying language. The biggest thing that we're trying to accomplish is calling out, I guess, for lack of a better term, EFRs, eligible facilities requests, because we do get a lot of those, and those follow a specific federal process that isn't accounted for in the bylaw. We're just kind of continuously kind of running into confusion and questions on behalf of applicants, and we just want to outline the procedure and codify it in the bylaw, as well as a couple of other older, I kind of always point to this example, but the height requirements for antennas or antennae, and some of the height of like ground equipment that oftentimes applicants continue to to be able to not meet the standards of the bylaw because the technology is modified over time. So that's just another example. And then, yeah, this modification section really is kind of the most important piece. It clearly delineates how EFRs are reviewed on behalf of the board, and outlines kind of the three ways that kind of staff and the board will review, including minor modification, or rather how it will be treated as a minor modification. The board has the ability to continue to request more time to review, or processing as a full special permit based on the ask. And co-locations, which is adding another carrier onto a wireless facility, is still going to be treated as a full special permit. So it doesn't count. EFRs, as everyone knows, typically swapping out equipment.
And this finally defines that special permit for a co-location, which we don't really have defined right now anyway, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we did want to clarify that.
Yeah.
At every carrier, every facility itself, typically a tower, and every carrier on that facility requires a special permit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if I'm remembering correctly, a new carrier going on to basically co-locating onto an existing facility, certainly we want that to be a special permit, but I think for some reason in my memory that can qualify as an EFR.
I think it depends on what.
Depends on the nature of it, but yes,
Right.
it could be an EFR. Even if it is an EFR, it still needs a special permit.
Yeah, that's how.
The rule, but if it is an eligible facilities request and requires a special permit, that basically says we cannot deny that special permit if it's an EFR.
Correct.
But
Yes.
that's not to say it can't be a special permit, it's just one that we can't deny, and we have a limited window of time in which to process it.
And how does that interact with what conditions the special permit might or might not be allowed to have? That gets, now you see, that's
Right.
where you're getting into,
Yes, I think,
It feels like that ends up being if we get to that situation where it's an EFR and a special permit for a new carrier, we just invoke council to help us with what we can and can't
Yeah.
put in that.
I think in all likelihood, we would be able to condition it with reasonable conditions, whatever exactly that is interpreted to mean. We cannot deny it, but that's not to say we can't condition it.
But Mr. Chair, so if I recall that the co-locations typically involve a good amount of new equipment to be added that usually will supersede the threshold of an EFR, but it can sometimes
Right, so that's,
align with it. But
that I think is the point, that
yeah,
if it is a new carrier co-locating on an existing facility and it falls within the constraints to be eligible as an EFR, then that means because it's a new carrier, we want a special permit. If it's an EFR, we can't deny it. We may be limited in the conditions we can impose on it, but typically a co-location onto an existing tower of a new carrier is not going to have any unusual, it's just going to be ordinary constraints.
why would a current resident on the tower need to add, they can swap. That's a
Right.
different thing from,
Yeah, they typically swap. I believe we have on occasion seen an existing carrier add an additional antenna array onto their existing facility.
I
Doesn't
don't
happen
think
often.
there are any carriers that have two arrays on the same tower.
That has happened in the past when a carrier acquires another carrier that's on the tower.
Anyway.
And how does that play into this? Is it a new carrier or,
What are the chances? I didn't look this up ahead of time.
How much of all the language we have here came from our consultant?
Out of this modification section, a
Well,
good chunk.
all of this,
Yeah, a lot of it, a good portion of it. I didn't really put my, I'm not an expert, so I mean, all I did was just kind of basic like clerical like things, but most of it's the wireless consultant.
And I do want to point out there are two substantive changes that I noticed in this that I think are in line with what we previously talked about and are okay with for May, but I wanted to call them out. The 5.8.6.8, we changed, I think, a height from like, what was it, 12 to 13 or something like that?
Yeah, and that's
Yep.
because every site plan that I review for a co-location, every single time they come in at 13 for some reason.
And then the 5.8.6.12, there was a few things that were in the stricken section that are not called out in the new section. I think it was all fine, but I wanted just to point it out.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to answer any questions about that too, because it is significantly reduced. But the reasoning behind that is because it's requiring, a 25-foot wide strip of grass with also, arborvitaes. I can't really see it with the cross out, but our arborvitaes along a security, like it's just a very detailed description. It's only most of the time the applications that we're seeing have a landscaping plan that complies mostly to this, and most of the time it's located in an area that already has significant buffering, and
If it's, in,
it doesn't really apply.
if it's in the middle of the woods and giant trees that are all part of one parcel, you don't necessarily need to have a screening on the fence.
Right, exactly. This is really more applicable for when there's an actual tower application in front of the board, and 9 out of 10 times those towers are already in a very dense vegetated area. But it still it still requires a landscaping plan to be submitted and approved by the board. It just
Yep.
doesn't have like very, very specific requirements. 10 foot high deciduous trees.
So the only sort of substantive comments I had on the proposed draft have to do with the modifications section,
which is,
5.8.10. In 5.8.10.2, it's missing a phrase that says the applicant, and it was in my suggested edits to that. Where did I put it? My notes here.
is EFR defined before it gets used in that?
Yeah, I think the definition section added a definition for EFR, which was sort of a key to that. But the applicant, it should be explicitly stated that the applicant must, let's see,
A lot of iterations.
rather than trying to remember it. Yeah, I had suggested that the modification shall be processed as an EFR if and only if the applicant asserts in writing that the application is an EFR and documents that assertion. So the language that Fiona has on the screen includes the part about documenting the assertion, but I think it should be explicit, saying that the applicant must assert in writing that the application is an EFR.
Okay.
So that's kind of it's a detail. I mean, but fundamentally, I don't have any problem with. But I think what we have in front of us is generally, aside from some, more or less nits in wording, I think it's in pretty good shape. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the planning board, the applicant should be required to assert in writing that the application is an EFR, and I think that concept pretty much comes from the FCC regulations.
Okay.
Yeah, they need to assert it, but then you're saying demonstrate it.
Yeah.
What if they demonstrate it unsuccessfully?
That's part of our evaluation process.
Well,
You can rule it's not an EFR as a board, and of course they could So we could rule as a board that it's not, that we don't consider it a valid EFR.
Yeah, in a case where we find that it's, well, there's one thing where we need more information.
Yes.
That's covered by the FCC regs, but ultimately, if we find that it's not, if we determine that it is not an EFR, we would go through the usual special permit process. We would assert that we will process it as a special permit. If the applicant disagrees with that, the lawyers would get involved.
Yes.
So,
I don't think we need to add it, but I would presume that them asserting it in writing and along with a completed application would be the start of our shot clock for an EFR decision.
Yeah, right. If
yeah,
I don't think we need to write it down. In there.
no, that's, it's a procedural question. But
Yes.
yeah, in terms of the zoning bylaw, we don't need to include anything that addresses that. The next part in this paragraph, the last sentence says, upon receipt, the planning board shall establish application requirements consistent with federal law and delegate review. I don't think that we would establish application requirements when we receive an application.
Yep.
I think that I would just remove that phrase. Upon receipt, the planning board shall delegate review of EFRs to staff. I think that's actually sufficient. The language I had proposed suggested that the board might adopt regulations, but I don't know that we need to. And in fact, I think it is sufficient here to say, upon receipt, the planning board shall delegate review of EFRs to staff to facilitate prompt determination whether the application may A, constitute an EFR, not a request for minor modification.
Okay. So change A to.
There's no such thing as a request for determination of minor modification defined anywhere in the zoning bylaw. But in fact, I think this is the procedure here is quite, pretty straightforward. Staff will determine whether the application may constitute an EFR or be required to further demonstrate applicability as an EFR, or be ineligible for EFR and be required to special permit. So I think that,
Okay.
I think that outlines anything that we might otherwise want to adopt as any sort of a regulation.
Right.
Okay.
I don't know that there's anything else that, again, I think it is in the FCC regulations, or possibly something that David Maxon wrote up that suggested that the board might adopt regulations, but unless we see, the board has the power to adopt regulations generally.
Yeah.
The only regulations the board has adopted today are the subdivision rules and regulations.
Yeah. My only comment to that, Dave, is I want to be careful that we're not basically proxying our decision on is this an EFR to staff. Just in the wording of how you write that, I don't want it to be presume that staff makes that final EFR determination. Granted, they should give us a recommendation on whether they believe it's
Yeah.
EFR, but
Okay.
Well, reading this language, staff could determine that the application may constitute an EFR. Not that the application does, but that it may.
perfect. That's
And
so I wanted to call it
I
out.
think the use of the word may there, is sufficiently clear that staff is not making the judgment, a final judgment on behalf of the board.
Perfect.
But yeah, and that's an important distinction to make. That
It
well,
would
we
make
can,
our lives easier if staff could do all of our work for us.
some planning boards do delegate certain levels of review to staff.
Yep.
And we actually do in the zoning bylaw for village mixed use. It's, in some cases, the board does not review a village mixed use application, but staff does. But that's neither here nor there for wireless.
Right.
And so, yeah, let me see. What else did I have? That there really wasn't much. Yeah, so in 5.8.10.3, again, not again, the phrase determination of minor modification is capitalized
Yeah.
as implying that there's a definition of that somewhere, but there really isn't.
Yep, so
That term is not defined. And I guess the last sentence of 5.8.10.3, any modification of an existing wireless facility for the co-location of an additional wireless carrier not under a special permit shall require a new special permit application. It's a little bit confusing when it's referring to an additional wireless carrier not under a special permit, because an additional wireless carrier by definition doesn't have a special permit already. So the not under a special permit is kind of redundant.
so take out that
Yeah.
of an additional wireless carrier. Or
Yeah, and that
for
has,
co-location not under a special permit.
right.
The only
Yep.
comment I know you had some confusion on is an additional carrier a special permit or not in the past, and I don't know if we have any examples of a second wireless carrier that's technically like built on top as a minor modification to an existing special permit for a different carrier.
As far as I know, we've always insisted that each carrier have their own special permit.
Yeah, I
That's great.
I remember some past conversations on what's the situation for some of these, but it's like wasn't sure. But I don't think we need to memorialize that oddball scenario in the bylaws anyway. So it was just a thought process.
Okay.
Yep.
The, is it actually the carriers or agents for the carriers who happen to own the tower? I think you'll find that, at least in the past, a good many of the people that come to us are working on behalf of the carrier, and they have, they're the tower.
The ones I have seen is stuff like Crown Castle doing business as Verizon or
Right.
so and so doing business as Singular or whatever it is, and it's that doing business as that I think I'm not a lawyer, so I can't speak for sure, but I
No, you're
think
right.
that's what makes it the entity that matters as far as special permit goes. The entity that matters when the special permit goes. So another company doing business as so and so is still acting as an agent for that
Right.
carrier.
So the important features are the tower itself.
Yep.
And each carrier on that tower. Typically, a new tower is gonna come to us with one carrier. And so the tower operator will basically be applying for the special permit for the tower and the first carrier on that tower. The next carrier to come on that tower is gonna be a special permit just on behalf of the carrier, but the first special permit will probably, hypothetically, it could be a tower operator could get the special permit for the tower without a carrier. I don't know that that's ever happened or is ever likely to happen, because why would you put up a tower without at least one tenant on your tower?
Right.
But
Yeah, doesn't make
very often the tower operator, owner, is not itself a wireless carrier. The wireless carriers are tenants on the tower.
And just to clarify, the signature of the owner is provided, the owner of the tower is
Yes,
provided in the
right.
application package when you're doing a
Right,
full
even-
special
right,
permit.
right. And even
application.
a second carrier adding to the tower operator, the tower owner
Has to,
has to sign
Confirm.
off on that. So the
Right.
tower owner is a part of that special permit as well, at least as a signatory.
yes.
So the way they all do business is,
It's a lot of
it
agents.
can look complicated.
We had it off of Indian Path, and the proposed tower a little ways over, got us into some of this or exposed us to some of this.
Yes,
Well,
but in any case,
are we spinning wheels?
well,
I think we are.
I think we're just sort of discussing interesting things that come up with wireless carriers. But as far as the zoning bylaw amendment is concerned, I think we pretty much zeroed in on what we want the ZBL to say.
Yep, I think I have an idea. I'll just make those changes to 5.8.10.2 and 5.8.10.3. I can bring it back on the 24th if the board wants me to do that. But I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. If the board wants one more look at the final language, what we are being asked tonight is to basically submit placeholders for the warrant for all of these.
Yes, that's correct. It's
and
not
I-
the final language. It's just the placeholder language.
And I think
That could
we likely have the final language for just about everything.
I think we could go straight to, our next interaction is at the hearing, at the public hearing. Cause we can, it's not as nice, but we can, if something comes up, we could have an amendment, I think, on the floor.
So
We do that.
Yeah.
We've done that before. Well, when people allowed it.
So did I just hear a motion to place?
Yes,
all
you
these-
did.
Submit all of these zoning bylaw amendments to the warrant for the Maytown meeting?
yes, I was just going to do. I can read all of them that we're doing if you want, Mr. Chair, or we can just.
Yeah, let's do that.
Is this for
These are-
wireless or all of them?
All of them.
Yeah.
So we've got a whole list of proposed amendments. All of the other ones, at a previous meeting, we had agreed that
Yep.
we wanted to see them on the Maytown meeting warrant.
So, Mr. Chair, just for clarity, I'm going to make a motion that we submit the following zoning amendments to town meeting warrant as discussed in this meeting and previous planning board meetings. Proposed changes to section 1.3.3. Proposed changes to section 1.5.8. Proposed changes to section 12 about townhouses. Proposed changes to section 13. Proposed changes regarding the tool shed. And the proposed changes for the wireless bylaw, section 5.8.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none. Mr. Wood,
Aye.
Mr. Hassinger,
Aye.
Mr. Delamole,
Aye.
Mr. Venkatraman,
Aye.
Ms. Robbins votes aye. Motion carried unanimously. And we'll follow up as need be. We'll schedule public hearings. We've got
The final language. Yeah.
final.
The warrant's open until
45
beginning of
days
May.
before,
Sorry. Just playing.
45 days before.
Yes. So there's time. Again, this is just placeholder. And then we'll, as Bob suggested, once we do the hearing on the zoning articles, we can talk through any other last minute changes the board wants. I'll put in the planning board report to town meeting, and we'll get it done.
And we have time to schedule the public hearings prior to the time that the finance committee holds their public hearings on the warrant.
We're tentatively looking at April 14th, I believe is the date.
Yeah,
April
'cause FinCom likes to have the planning board's report when they make their own recommendations.
Yeah, the 14th is when we're looking at for the hearing.
Okay.
Yeah, we did vote that.
Yep. So we just voted that. We took care of that action item.
And it is now 7:30. Well, 30 seconds.
Did we have anything else to discuss under town meeting next steps? I think we've just covered that territory. It is now, well, in 13 seconds it will be. Be precise about this. It is now 7:30. We have one public hearing on the agenda for this evening, which is a continuation of the public hearing on a request for a special permit and site plan approval at 117 Ferry Street from the South Grafton Water District. We have in hand a written request from the applicant to continue this hearing to our next meeting, March 24th at 7:30 PM.
I move that we approve said request for continuation.
Second.
Moved and seconded that the board grant the applicant's written request for continuation to March 24th at 7:30 PM. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, Mr. Wood,
Aye.
Mr. Hassinger,
Aye.
Mr. Delamole,
Aye.
Mr. Venkatraman,
Aye.
Mr. Robbins votes aye. Motion carried unanimously. We'll pick up on that public hearing in 2 weeks. Circling back to general business. It looks like we have some bills to approve.
I move we, authorize payment of the bills.
Second.
Moved and seconded that the board authorize payment of the bills. Any discussion on the motion?
Are my bills in there?
Pardon?
I said, I was joking. Are my bills in there? They're not.
I suppose it's limited to the bills that were submitted to the planning board.
Fair.
Mr. Wood,
Aye.
Mr. Hassinger,
Aye.
Mr. Delamole,
Aye.
Mr. Venkatraman,
Aye.
and Mr. Robbins votes aye. Motion carried unanimously. Staff can take care of getting the bills paid. We have no minutes of previous meetings.
Working on
We probably have a staff report.
Yeah, I'll be quick because it's not much has changed since last time, but we do have, so we're getting really close to the end of the master plan update. So I sent out an internal email to planning board, select board, zoning board of appeals, and department heads, as well as other there's kind of a general boards and committees email address. So upon, CMRPC wanted me to kind of gather any final comments to bring to the April master plan working group meeting. After that meeting, it's really the last kind of bite at the apple for that process, because the goal is to have everything finalized. There will be a public comment period between April 7th and May 2nd for the general public, but yeah, we're really trying to wrap this up in neat bow, everything done, everything submitted, and hopefully ready for planning board approval by the end of May. So it's been a long time coming, and I'm very excited to close it out. So 2 more working group meetings. The last one, the May meeting, ultimately being kind of weird official sign off from the working group and then approval. So excited about that. And I just, members of the public, or anybody has any questions about that process or the plan or anything, or want to provide any comment directly to me, you can email the planning department, reach out to me directly, and I will make sure that your comments are heard, and I will make sure the CMRPC has a record of them and they're incorporated in some way with the approval of the working group. So I have a site walk on Thursday for we got a local bottleneck grant for the Waterville East Street and North Main Street intersection. So we're walking what TEC is the engineering firm that we were paired with. So yeah, so I'm sorry, we're walking the site with DPW director Paul and Brian Circo, the town engineer, and myself. So we're starting that, and then what's going to end up happening from there is recommendations will be made by TEC and submitted to the state, and it will go to the next round of review. So it's a weird grant program because it's different thresholds. Like not everything is totally guaranteed. We kind of got through the first round and were awarded and paired with somebody, but now we need to kind of it's weird. It's an interesting way of doing things, but I think there will be they wouldn't pick projects that wouldn't be approved until the final through the final round, so I think we're fine, but it's a tiered structure, and it's interesting. So I'll keep everybody posted about that and the outcomes of the site walk as well, and uploaded that to the correspondence.
And do you have a sense of what the possibilities are? I mean, is it redoing the traffic pattern on the road, or adjusting the light? Like, what are the actual levers that can be pulled? Do you know that yet, or is that going to be determined?
Not yet. Signal improvements are definitely a priority. The reworking of the traffic pattern, yeah, we'll have to see on that. That's probably limited, but kind of general safety improvements and the signal are kind of the focus at the moment.
Got it.
I'll keep everybody posted because I know that intersection is tricky and this board's very interested in that. So, hopefully good things will come of that. TEC is a great engineering firm. So, okay. And then I'm working on, CPTC conference is Saturday, the 15th. Citizens Planner Training Collaborative. The board always gets a notification of that event every year. It's really good.
I'm signed up to go.
I'll see you there. Again. So, it's at the Holy Cross in Worcester, all day on Saturday. So if you're a huge planning nerd like myself and Dave, you should come. I'm happy to share any information if anyone's interested. Yeah, I think those are kind of the main things I had. My operational budget meeting with FinCom, but planning's budget's pretty easy because it's kind of standard line items like office supplies and whatever, and there's really not that much fluctuation with anything. There's like a conference line item where, we pay to go to CPTC and things like that, but it really hasn't. I asked for a slight increase in everything just to kind of cover the rising costs of things, but nothing.
Did you ask for a double salary for the board? Double zero?
I'll always advocate for that. I can't guarantee that it'll ever happen, but
I think we should put in for $1 for the board members. There's a reason for that. For a paid employee.
okay. Clever.
Try to get that one by.
Yeah, I know. Keep dreaming.
Has there been any updates since, I want to say last year, on any of the two GSX properties? The Old Upton thing and the Pine Street?
So 8 Pine, nothing since they came before the board last summer. Was it last summer?
I think so.
For the modification.
Yep.
So I have nothing since. We do continue to press them and remind them that, we would like to see the plans implemented. The 17 and 27 Upton Street, they've obviously received their permits with all of the land use boards. They have applied for a building permit. They have not received a building permit yet.
Okay.
I think financial
Yeah, and the
things are still unfolding, and they're going back and forth with the TA's office about that.
and of course the state law that gives them an extra 2 years probably is not putting fire under their.
Yeah, the Permit Extension Act, right? Because that does apply to licenses, certifications, permits, all sorts of things that are associated with development. The only thing that it doesn't apply to is comprehensive permits under Chapter 40B. So, yeah, I mean, they're very communicative about 17 and 27 Upton, and I know they have a deadline for their grant agreement for the Affordable Housing Trust that's coming up April 1st, and we've been on their case and reminding them about that. If the Permit Extension Act applies to that grant agreement, I do not know. So I need to.
I don't believe it would. It's not a permit, right?
Yeah, I don't think so.
So what happens on April 1st?
They will need to probably go back before the select board for an extension, which,
Because there's terms in the grant they were given from affordable housing that have a date of April 1st on it.
yes, yes, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know that I think they're planning on, the Affordable Housing Trust is meeting this Thursday at 7:00, and I believe that is going to be on their agenda to discuss. So we will see. And that's all I have really.
Any questions for Fiona?
I have one about, oh, go ahead.
North Grafton Shopping Plaza. Have you had anybody come in?
No, and I haven't even
Something's happening.
the well, we've had 92 Worcester Street come in for a development team meeting, but that's not the plaza site.
That's not 92. No, this is 217. 217 Worcester Street.
Yeah, 92 Worcester Street is the old Burger King.
Yeah.
Or in that vicinity.
I didn't know if anybody had come in because I got word yesterday that of what's going in there. So, but I don't know.
Okay,
Who
I'll
knows?
check with
Something.
Tracy.
Yeah.
At Bullock Plaza?
Yeah. Well, I don't call it Bullock.
So there's something going,
Something's gonna go in there.
I saw something on social media today that, guess what?
Yeah. So that's the word I got yesterday. I just didn't know if they had been in. So,
No.
I mean, that's a site plan nightmare. So, as far as lot lines and everything like.
Oh, yeah,
five
yeah,
different
yeah.
Parcels there.
Private ways.
Yeah.
Is it two?
Or-
Sorry, did you say 215 or 217?
217.
217 isn't that the Cumberland Farm?
Oh, 215 then.
250. Oh yeah. Oh, 215. Yeah. Brian Fitzgerald has been in and has been trying, working with staff for a year to try and bring that more into a conforming lot. There was a couple, we worked with him on a couple of zoning changes. We helped him get an underutilized property program grant through Mass Development to kind of do some abatement on that back building. So yeah, we've been working. Sorry, I thought
No, it's
I
okay.
was looking at 217. Yeah, we've done a lot. It is a site plan conundrum. But what he's discussed with me is significantly better than what he is what is there now, and will really look nice.
I wonder to what extent they'll be taking advantage of the village mixed-use zoning there. Because that's, our whole purpose of rezoning that into village mixed-use was to facilitate some form of redevelopment, particularly on the back half of that lot,
Yeah,
which was originally zoned residential.
yeah, he's making a concerted effort to try and meet the requirements of that zoning. So,
So,
upon my strong my strong suggestion to do so. I know the buildings are older and non-conforming, but yeah. So I think hopefully
we'll see what happens.
yeah.
That was it for me.
Greg, you had something?
Oh, my question was, I didn't, we just got the draft of the master plan, but I haven't gotten a chance to look all the way through it. But, in the beginning, it kind of talks about population growth. Is there anything in here about like the pipeline of approved properties and like what we have as a current state? No, not a state of Massachusetts. I mean, like the town of Grafton, right? Back when we were talking about some of these bigger projects, we had maps and things, and there was a whole series of properties that are approved, right? And we have this pipeline
Yep.
of possible development, right? And my
Right.
memory of that was, it's, again, it takes time. Each project has its own issues, but there's hundreds of units in this pipeline, right? So I just was curious about, it's, if you talk about it, population growth being, 10% from now to 2050,
Yeah.
there's a possibility of that being different if whatever happens in the environment makes it favorable and a lot of these projects move forward. So I guess that's just one bit of context. I'm wondering if it's in there or if we can include it somehow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We can definitely underscore it's in there, but I think the discussion of obviously population growth and its relation to housing growth. And Dave, you provided the map of the pipeline projects that were incorporated.
So it's in here? I just haven't been through the whole thing. If it's
Yeah,
in here,
there
then
should-
I gotta read the whole thing.
Yeah, and
Alright.
I don't know if I think that they do have that. I will follow up with them to make sure that they have the actual number because we did provide a number of projects in the pipeline. It was earlier on in the process.
Yeah.
But that number, it's like a number of units.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah,
Exact,
I'll make
I don't
sure.
remember the exact numbers. We did spend some time
And
talking about.
Well, then maybe I just didn't get to it. So yeah, I was just curious.
And
Yeah.
and one piece of context, Greg, that I don't know if you were aware generally, the master plan is, in theory, something the town will use to kind of help guide, the policies and stuff we want to see in the town. You also, in Massachusetts, you usually generate a master plan about every 10 years. That's a target. It takes a few years to do one, and we last did our update. What was it? Over 20 years ago now.
25.
25 years. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yes.
So it's been a while, and
And that one had been, you know how many years?
yeah,
the-
and hopefully we don't wait another 25 years to do another one.
well-
but, I mean, we'll see.
I remember looking it up, trying to find the previous map, the master plan prior to the 2000 master plan. And if I'm remembering right, the number I came up with was 1967 was the previous
It's in
plan.
the ballpark.
So anyway, we're doing okay. But with respect to questions about future development potential, we also are talking in the master plan about looking at different areas of Grafton and trying to identify the areas that are most appropriate for various different forms of development. In particular, there's a lot of the folks on the master plan working group are very interested in trying to focus development more into village center areas rather than spread out. And so we've identified 8 areas in Grafton that could be considered village centers. And one element of the plan is to take a closer look at each of those areas to try to identify what opportunities for development exist in those areas and what would be feasible and appropriate. So there's part of looking at what's already planned. There's also part of trying to direct future growth in particular ways.
Yeah. I'm just doing a quick scan here.
So it's kind of like one thing hopefully people will get out of this is that this is how Grafton has developed over the years. And we asked a question in the master plan survey early on, do you want to see Grafton continue to develop the way it has been, which is primarily low density suburban development, chewing up all our available open space, or would you like to see it directed in a way that preserves more open space and provides housing in greater density in limited areas where it's appropriate? And 2/3 of the survey respondents said we'd like to change direction and not just do the suburban development that we've focused on almost exclusively for 75 years.
Yeah, that's definitely that was kind of very strongly expressed throughout the engagement process. Yeah, so there is a few sentences in there, but we can bolster that. It is an approximate number, 1,000 units. 1,000 units of new housing, which are at various stages of planning and permitting, are anticipated to be added to the housing stock in the coming years. So.
Do you think that's gonna be presented to town meeting for a vote, or just let the planning board do its job?
Just the planning board. It's not required. We can.
I'm familiar with what's required.
Yes.
I signed the last one.
We can. If
Yeah,
the
and
board would like.
that's been an open question.
Yeah.
You get, instead of the 5 of us, it's, all those people who will get themselves down to town meeting about it.
Yeah.
And gives it maybe a little more weight.
I'd be curious if the select board has any strong preference on one way or the other to go about it.
It's our job.
It's our job, but I'd be interested in their preference.
Well,
Just as
I'll
a
be happy
curiosity.
to hear what they might suggest, but
I mean, it is, the planning board is responsible for producing a master plan. It
And approving it.
would be helpful if we could get a sense that other town agencies and the town in general supports the master plan. Just because we think it's a good idea doesn't mean that the town's going to support it.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I have no
Yeah,
problem.
well, I've actually been asking that since we started saying we might be doing a master plan,
Yes.
because we had hoped to do that the last time, but with the turnover in people, planner, and consultant, it just fell, just
So we'll
Do
be,
that.
we as a board will be hearing more about the master plan over the next few weeks. And ultimately, we
All
will
right.
decide to officially and formally adopt it.
And it's a virtual meeting for the public comment, so is that, are you publicizing it in a way where people are gonna come on Zoom, or is everybody just submitting it in a different way?
So that email request for comment, there's a form in there that people can fill out. And I understand that it's an extremely long document and people don't have time to read the entire thing. And if they just focus on their core area and want to shoot me an email, that's fine too. And I'll just
Okay.
Yeah,
Get it
the
to them.
email that Fiona sent out this afternoon was,
just to be clear, that email was for that's more of an internal board members, committee members, and just department heads, and then the public comment period will open it up
yeah,
to everybody, which will be posted on the website, social media, everywhere we can.
yeah, this email this afternoon was not an announcement of a meeting.
Correct. Thank you. Yes, it was not. Just
All right. Let's see, anything else for Fiona? Anything in correspondence that anybody wants to talk about? Any reports from planning board representatives on town committees and CMRPC? We did have a master plan working group meeting a week ago. Fiona's already touched on that. I don't have anything to add. Anything else? Any other items which may lawfully come before the board?
I move we adjourn.
second.
Moved and seconded that this meeting be adjourned. Mr. Wood?
Aye.
Mr. Hassinger?
Aye.
Mr. Delamole?
Aye.
Mr. Venkatraman?
Aye.
And Mr. Robbins votes aye. Motion carried unanimously. The meeting is adjourned.